There's been a lot of talk about support for unions and so forth. I grew up in a union town, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. My dad was a union executive, and I was very proud of him. I was a union member myself, and so I find it rather offensive that just because I'm a conservative, and particularly a fiscal conservative, that somehow I'm anti-union, or we're all anti-union. I think that we have to realize that that's a red herring. So, Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to rise in this House today to stand up for good, hardworking Canadians, including union members, and speak against Bill C-4. I believe, as do my Conservative colleagues, that transparency and accountability are the pillars of our policies. In fact, it was our former Conservative government that created the Federal Accountability Act, and we didn't stop there. No, as well, we created and passed legislation to ensure unions were accountable to their members and to all Canadians. Bill C-4 threatens accountability and transparency in labor negotiations and labor relations. All Canadians should know where their money goes and be entitled to accountability. Madam Speaker, the member for Kildonan and St. Paul told the House the legislation reflects, and I quote, reflects the Liberal government's commitment to restore a fair and balanced approach to labor relations in this country, end quote. But in fact, Madam Speaker, this bill removes the balance struck between big union bosses and Canadians. Bill C-4 perhaps better reflects the uncomfortably close relationship between the Liberal government and union bosses. Madam Speaker, I'd like to review the content of both bills that will be repealed by Bill C-4. So, we're looking at Bill C-525. Bill C-525 addressed the concerns the union members themselves had with the previous card check system. The card check system allows for a workplace to be unionized without allowing all employees to express their opinion. In fact, the unionization of a workplace could occur without a significant portion of the bargaining unit having been made aware. That's just wrong. In the current system, if a certification drive were to be conducted for a bargaining unit of 100 employers, and the union is able to obtain the signatures of 51 members, the bargaining unit would be certified. There's not a requirement for those remaining 49% of members to be notified that a unionization drive is even taking place, or to be given the opportunity to express their opinions or opposition. And I think that's just wrong. The card check system is susceptible to abuse, wherein workers could be pressured by unions and or their colleagues into signing a union card. A secret ballot vote allows employees to provide an honest and accurate indication of support, free from the threat of pressure or intimidation from both unions and employers. And now let's look at Bill C-377. It also took steps to improve transparency with union funds. Previously, labor organizations that enjoy substantial public benefits were not required to publicly disclose their financial activity. Labor organizations operate tax-free, and their members receive full income tax deductibility for their dues, payments, and receive their strike pay, tax-free. Dues deductibility alone costs the federal treasury in the range of $500 million a year. That's a staggering amount of money. Financial transparency occurs in institutions receiving substantial public benefit. This is not a new concept. Bill C-377 addressed this gap in financial accountability, extending transparency to unions. In short, the bill required that every labor organization in Canada file a standard set of financials each year, which are posted on the CRA website, much like Canadian charities already do. It wasn't radical legislation. Madam Speaker, it's a fact. Canadians union members, stakeholders, and at least members on this side of the House support transparency and accountability. Let me share just some of the widespread support that these bills received. Bill C-525. In a news release from April 2014, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business welcomed the passage of Bill C-525, stating, "Secret ballot votes are a cornerstone of our democracy." And I think virtually anybody in Canada has to agree with that statement. A poll commissioned by the Canadian Labour Watch organization found that 86% of unionized or formerly unionized workers supported secret ballot voting for union accreditation. Canada is the only country in the industrialized world that forces union dues on workers. Further, in his testimony before the Standing Senate Committee on Legal and Constitutional Affairs, John Mortimer, president of the Canadian Labour Watch Association, expressed support for Bill C-525, making the following points. Since 1977, 6 provinces, including Nova Scotia, British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland and Labrador, have established laws guaranteeing secret ballots for union certification. So the secret ballot is statutorily guaranteed for the majority of Canadians. This type of secret ballot has not caused unions to disappear, or not even in Nova Scotia, where it has been in place since 1977. The rate of new unionization is lower than before and reflects what informed employees are making, is that they're making a private choice. That's what they want. Sometimes employees are victims of inappropriate tactics and given wrong information to get them to sign their membership card. That's just wrong. For example, some employees sign their card, and we know this has happened, without knowing the true result, the unionization of their workplace. With regard to timelines for holding secret ballots, 7 Canadian jurisdictions do not set timelines for votes. Now, Bill C-377 also received significant support, and I will highlight a few. During his testimony before the Standing Senate Committee on Legal and Constitutional Affairs in 2015, Aaron Wudrick, federal director, indicated that the Canadian Taxpayers Federation supported the bill for the following reasons. Given that unions enjoy a wide range of tax benefits and special tax treatment, it would be appropriate to require them to disclose their financial information, as is the case with charities. It's a no-brainer. Transparency is very important because it acts as a deterrent, and it allows a broader class of people to uncover any transgressions. And in testimony before the House of Commons Standing Committee on Finance and the Standing Senate Committee on Banking, Trade and Commerce, Terence Oakley, president of Merit Canada, was in favor of Bill C-377 for the following reasons. He said the bill would enable Canada to catch up with other advanced economies when it comes to financial disclosure. That's got to be a good thing. The bill would not change the mandatory payment of dues by unionized workers, nor the manner in which that money is used. The bill only deals with the transparency requirements that should be imposed on labor organizations. Workers paying dues deserve to know how that money will be spent. It's the least that should happen. And Canadians have a right to know how their taxes are being used to influence public policy. A 2011 poll by Nanos, in fact, found out that 86% of unionized Canadians supported greater union transparency. 86%. That's an opinion shared by 83% of the general public. So with this support, then why does the Liberal government want to repeal these important pieces of legislation? I must ask the government, where is the fairness for hard-working Canadians? Madam Speaker, it's just wrong-headed, and we cannot stand for this.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The honourable member from Scarborough Agincourt.
Great. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I want to thank my friend from Edmonton-Griesbach for his contribution to the debate. I listened at some length to his rationale for why he opposes the government's initiatives with respect to Bill C-4. But I particularly reference specific comments that he made with respect to Bill C-377. And yet, if you recall in the previous Parliament, when the matter the first time was referred to the Senate, the matter was actually amended significantly by the Senate Tory majority, which seemed to have been opposed by that party's particular government at that time. Does my friend have a particular comment as to why it insisted on, at the time when they couldn't actually get support from their own Senate Tory colleagues, why they felt the need to gut the attempts that were made by that particular caucus to make improvements to the bill?
The honourable member for Edmonton-Griesbach.
Well, Madam Speaker, I have to confess, as my colleague probably knows, I wasn't around for that. But I mean, it comes down to transparency. It's just a no-brainer. It was good legislation. Union people, union members supported it, and it's not all about union leaders. If you talk to union members, quite often they're not informed by their own leadership. So we have to stand up for hardworking union members. We're not here to support the union bosses. We're here to support the hardworking union members.
Ces commentaires, questions and comments? The honourable member from l'honorable député de Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. On ne peut pas tout simplement se draper dans des vertus de transparence, d'équité, même si chacun des députés conservateurs vient de me dire qu'ils sont pour les travailleurs, pour les syndicats, que c'est pas... Moi, je pense que quand on se mêle d'une organisation, puis quand on tente d'opposer les membres et les responsables d'une organisation, on ne peut pas dire après ça qu'on veut aider cette organisation-là. La vérité, c'est que ce projet de loi-là inutile qu'ils avaient présenté visait à conférer des avantages indus aux employeurs hostiles au syndicalisme. C'est tout simplement ça.
The honourable member for Edmonton-Griesbach.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I'm not sure there's a question there. Again, I have to reiterate that this bill is all about fairness. I think she talked about organizations, and again, leaders, and that seems to be what that party talks about. They get their campaign workers and so forth from major union bosses and so forth. But we care. As a Canadian, as a conservative, and as someone I think who is a fiscal conservative, we care about the average worker. And I think that sometimes the party that appears to have tight focus with others in the labor movement throws the average worker under the bus. And this is an exact example of it, because I think that union members, rank and file, want more transparency, and they certainly want to have secret ballots because the intimidation factor is too strong. I've seen it firsthand. People are afraid. You know, I've heard it from the other side as well, where they say, well, how many cases have come up where there is, you know, they're not complaining. Well, they're afraid to complain.